Hello again. Just the Talk YouTube channel. This is my video on dementia again. You might feel that I'm kind of obsessed with the dementia as the topic, but there are many things that I have done, including dementia. Recently, there was a meeting and they reviewed the literature available for various things that have been talked in the past. If you go through the list of my videos, you will find that I've talked about postmenopausal hormone replacement to vitamin D, to exercise, how many steps are needed, what kind of exercise, and many other stuff. This particular article was interesting to me for various reasons. They actually summarize 14 different things that could contribute to the prevention of dementia or occurrence of dementia. And they in fact had several studies, I think 700 or so, that they looked at. And they also looked at the percentage contribution from any one of these 14 different things. So I think it was an extensive, I would say that a review type of an article, though it was coming out of a meeting. And what they found out was that there were several factors. They summarized total 14. And interestingly enough, the amyloid reducing drugs were not included in this or in a success story. So the 14 things were well known. Some of which are well known, some of which are a little bit of a surprise. But when you think about it, it doesn't become a surprise. So these 14 things are, I'm going to list them right now, followed by a little bit something on some of them, not all of them. For example, educational level, if you have higher education, then you have a reduced risk of developing dementia. Don't know whether this is related to people that actually do the higher education have better brain function or not. But this apparently was 7% contribution in the dementia group. So second one was hearing loss, which is again surprise to some, but if there are no inputs from the environment to the world, TV, audiobooks, blah, blah, you are going to have dementia. So hearing loss was second. Again, contribution was about 7%. Then there was depression, which again, I think the depression may lead to isolation, which is another one of the factors that are later down. So depression also contributed to the dementia risk. They head trauma, which occurs in some plays like football injuries, boxing, or even for that matter, falling off a bicycle. So using helmet would be useful in this particular case. Head trauma increases the risk of developing dementia. Exercise, we all know that. I've talked about it many times. Again, how many steps are enough? Please see my previous YouTube videos. After I think about 9,400 or 500 steps per day, the risk does not reduce further. Minimum, I think, was over 4,000. Smoking doesn't come as a surprise. Smoking increases the risk of dementia, and so does the excessive alcohol intake. We have not defined excessive alcohol intake, but certainly everybody knows about that. Hypertension and diabetes, the two main enemies of the human beings. Hypertension does increase the dementia risk, probably vascular dementia because of atherosclerosis accentuation that occurs with hypertension, or even the reasoning for the hypertension is vasoconstriction and or hardening of the arteries, which again can cause vascular dementia. So definitely blood pressure is a risk. Controlling the blood pressure does seem to help, and that I will address at the end of this particular one. Diabetes, same story. Diabetes is not only a disease of sugar, but it is also a disease of small blood vessels, and this causes the probably the vascular dementia again, maybe a mini infarct, eating the brain piecemeal between the high blood pressure and diabetes causing it. Obesity. So obesity, irrespective of the exercise, does seem to increase it. We don't know if because obesity or the fat cells tend to secrete inflammatory chemicals, and that may be causing the atherosclerosis and leading to the dementia. Again, the mechanism is not discussed in this particular article, but as you know, abdominal fat and visceral fat, the fat which is around the organs inside the belly, causes people to have some inflammatory substance release, which causes a lot of inflammatory diseases, including asthma, colitis, and of course, atherosclerosis. So that may be the cause of vascular dementia again. So obesity is another contributor. Vision loss. Again, if you don't have input from sensory organs, like the hearing loss, you probably could be isolated, could also be depressed, and lack of input from external sources can lead to increased risk of dementia. Interestingly enough, it was only 2%. The social isolation which occurred with COVID and pandemics, and also occurs in a lot of people who stop driving, don't have close family members who take them out daily for social interaction. This is a major issue in advancing age, and it contributes about 7% again. So there are several things which are 7%, which is important. Education, hearing loss, and social isolation contribute about 7%. And then last one, but not the least one, is LDL1. This is a component of the fat in the blood. As you probably know, total cholesterol, HDL, high density lipoprotein, very high density lipoprotein, VHDL, low density lipoprotein, and very low density lipoprotein. LDL seems to be bad. In diabetic, we try to strive to get that LDL down below or equal to 60. Even otherwise, less than 100 is normal, preferably 80. So increase in LDL was associated with 7% increased risk of dementia. Now, one might wonder as to how can you treat some of this stuff. And the interesting part was they were talking about increasing the cost of cigarette smoking and or the alcohol. So if you increase the price of the alcohol, which they tried it in, I think in Scotland or somewhere, they saw a reduction in drinking by 1 to 3 drinks per week. So certainly that could help. The same thing is with cost of cigarettes. Though cigarette cost is going out of way, definitely that might help the reduction of the dementia in this way. Now, prevention, air pollution is also thought to be one of the contributing factor. And so if you have areas where you don't allow cars and one has to walk in those areas, this might help, or this could help reduction in the dementia. Interestingly enough, in this particular group of factors, which were I just mentioned one by one, diet and sleep did not have enough studies or information to be included in this particular group. But as you know, diet does contribute to the diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension, obesity, and so certainly it contributes to it. Sleep, the slow wave sleep seems to be helpful in clearing up the deposited tau or amyloid. So that is important, but there were no concrete studies that they could guarantee it. Interestingly enough, there are 2 drugs which are available for clearing the amyloid protein. One is called Kisunla, Kisunla, and the other one is called Leqembi, Leqmni. Both of these drugs did not have enough data to be included in these studies. The reducing the salt intake and sugar intake was associated with improvement in blood pressure control and diabetes probably, and in turn will reduce incidence of dementia. So there are 13 or 14 factors that were included in this particular group, starting with education, memory, hearing loss, depression, head trauma, exercise, smoking, alcohol intake increased by hypertension, diabetes, obesity, visual disturbances, social isolation, and increase in LDL. Hope this stimulates some of the thinking and we can follow some of this in our regular life and prevent dementia. Thank you for listening. If you like, please subscribe. Have a nice day.